You're listening to Awards Magnet, a Gold Derby podcast. Subscribe weekly for new episodes during Emmys and Oscar season, interviews with top awards contenders, and special monthly mailbag episodes. Email us at slugfests@goldderby.com. Now, on to the show. Welcome back to Awards Magnet. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce Ng. And Joyce, we have a lot of angry listeners this week.
I love the haters, the outrage.
We're going to talk about what we're going to talk about. Four Seasons today, some new category moves and surprises in the limited series category, which is going to facilitate me having to make changes to my predictions because I had...
You already have.
The Perfect Couple represented, Joyce. Remember my favorite show, The Perfect Couple?
Remember when we did our ridiculously early 2025 predictions and you had that everywhere?
And now it's a drama series, Joyce.
It is.
No, we're going to start with last week, Joyce. We had our episode... I'm going to say spoiler alert, I guess.
Do we?
Well, I'm just going to read one email. We had a lot of emails about this, Joyce. They're not doing a mailbag episode, but I want to read this one from our good pal, CJ, who's a listener.
Ooh, okay.
And he was suggested that I would not read this. But CJ, guess what?
So now you're proving wrong.
CJ, guess what? We're reading it. This is indicative, Joyce, though, of multiple emails and comments. Dear Joyce and Chris, I wish to express my disappointment that the title of your last episode included a major spoiler for The Last of Us. By all means, discuss it on the episode and give a spoiler warning so listeners may choose to opt out of being spoiled. As a subscriber to your pod, the episode appeared on my feed, and the damage was done before I had any opportunity to react. I do not believe it is reasonable to expect people to simply assume that because an episode has aired more than 24 hours ago that it's fair game to publicly broadcast spoilers in this way, nor is it reasonable to expect that your audience should assume all risk of spoilers because they know what they're getting into with your show. I'm a relatively new listener, and no, I did not know. Please consider making efforts to exclude spoilers from your episode titles, discuss them in the episode as much as you like, and give a warning. I do not expect you to read this on an episode, but please appreciate that I and many others are very upset by this quite careless and totally unnecessary oversight. Kind regards, that's from CJ.
Was it careless, though?
Well, here's what I'd say, Joyce, and kind of like, we talked about this on the episode. You and I differ, I think, a little bit on spoilers. You are way more...
I'm ruthless.
Ruthless is the right word. I was trying to think of a way to say it, but you just found it. Yeah. You're a good editor, so you found the right word.
Yeah, anyone who's listened to us for a while would know that about me. Yeah.
I'm less ruthless, I would say. I understand more. That said, with The Last of Us specifically, I could think of multiple reasons why I don't feel even a little bit of remorse by having that Joel died in the headline. First of all, it's an adaptation of a game that is 5 years old. That Last of Us came out 5 years ago, the video game. Now, I know everybody doesn't play video games, but it is also a massive video game, and it is very easy to remember back to when this game came out. Multiple sites wrote about it, and it was a widely discussed talking point, and even when the show was announced, it was known that, like, you know what I mean? All these different things conspire to make me think, okay, like, I wouldn't be upset if a novel, you know, I don't read, Joyce, as we know, longtime listeners will definitely know that. So I can't think of a novel with like a twist ending necessarily, but I'm like, you know, I think when it's a book or something, there's a less of a statute of limitations or a historical, if it's an adaptation of something like history, you can't have spoilers in history.
History is not a spoiler.
I feel like this is not obviously reality, but it is in that it's 5 years old. So that's part one. And then part two, and especially for me, and I don't know how you think about this, like, it is not it's not like we're discussing like, this is part of the show. There's 7 episode season. This happened in episode 2 that Joel died. It is, the entire show is about the aftermath of Joel's death. That's not necessarily a spoiler. That's like talking about the show. It's like when Logan died on Succession. That was a spoiler for like the first night to me. And then after that, it just is the show. You can't, like, every episode, do you expect people to be like, oh, Last of Us, like the third episode was all about...
around it, yeah.
The third episode was all about how The Last of Us dealt with Joel's death. Do you still anticipate a spoiler when people are up to the writing about the third episode or talking about the third episode? I personally don't. And then finally, like we're saying, it wasn't just 24 hours. This episode we ran, Joyce. Ran Friday. Last of Us was Sunday. That's a long time.
5 days later.
So I'm sympathetic to the complaints. More so than maybe you are. Obviously, like you said, you're ruthless, and we've talked about this, that you've written about this, Joyce.
I have, yeah.
The spoilers and how, you know, kind of like watch your own back basically online. That said, this one I feel like we're fine with. That was my take. So CJ, I appreciate the comment. Many other people, Blair, WTF, I can't see. I got spoiled.
Here's the thing. Like, I'm sympathetic when people are spoiled before the thing is released in mass to everyone. Like, pre-release, if you were spoiled, I have major sympathy for you. But after it's been released to the public for public consumption, like, that's just a risk you run in life. Like, you could like go to a restaurant and the people at the table next to you could be talking about this and you haven't watched the episode yet, you know, and you could say like, oh, you couldn't control that, but that's still like, you're going out in the world and like, that's just a risk you run. You go on the internet is dangerous. It's a risky place for you to be. Right. But if you're going to go on, you just have to know that there's a chance you could be spoiled on something you have not watched, intentionally, unintentionally, when you're going to a site or just like on social media. Like, when something has aired in mass to the world, people are allowed to talk about it and discuss it. So like, the world does not revolve around your viewing schedule. And I think like, especially in this day and age, when so like, because of social media, like, you could curate so many things to your liking, right? You can mute words and, you know, mute accounts and people and just like have things, you know, like self protection, like just things you like to look at. And I think that kind of carries over when you're discussing like media, like, because people want everything catered to them, and that just doesn't work that way with a lot, you know, like shows like this or movies, you know. And I mean, like, me personally, I think like in terms of a show, once it's aired on both coasts, it's fair game. Like, people will talk about it, you know. And I mean, in terms of Last of Us last week, a lot major outlets 24 hours later had Joel's death in the headline.
Yes.
You know, it's like, you just got to talk about it. And from a business perspective, you need to have that in your headline and your SEO, because the people who did watch the episode, they're searching for this.
That's another thing that's very true.
So, yeah.
And in terms of, like I said, in terms of us, it's specific to what we're talking about, I think, especially in that last episode for us, where it's like that his death, is a foundational thing, not just for the show, but for the Emmys and like we're like all these different, it raises many questions.
Yeah. And then also, I mean, like, remember like the halcyon days of reality TV in the 2000s, you know, like, I mean, I never watched American Idol, but like, you know, every week, you know, someone gets eliminated, and immediately afterwards, like, I saw headlines of like who was axed that night, right. And then they would fly them on a red eye from LA to New York the next day so they could do their exit press tour, and they were everywhere. Like, I used to work at a tabloid, and all of them would come through the next day. And it's like, you just saw, like, you just knew who was eliminated, you know, and like, that's a spoiler, but it's just like, this thing happens and people are allowed to react and talk about it. Like, you don't spoiler proof sports results. Like, you're never like, who won the Super Bowl, who won the World Series. You don't spoiler proof award shows. Like, what won Best Picture, what upset the bear. You just write hacks upset the bear for Best Comedy Series.
I don't disagree. And like, I think I'm very sympathetic, but I think, and especially because of this specific case, like, there are other things, Joyce, there's I'll just say this, we're running this Friday. We're going to talk about the show, The Four Seasons, which is out now on Netflix. I'm not going to spoil it right now, but there is a big surprise. There's a twist in that show that happens that I would not spoil right now. Or maybe we could talk, when we're talking about the show later, maybe we can, and we'll flag that it's a major spoiler. Wouldn't put that in the headline even, because it's like not a known property, and it's kind of like, okay, you haven't maybe had a chance to watch it yet, and that I'm sympathetic towards. But Joel dying is just like a big part of the show, and about the future of the show and the rest of the season of the show. And we didn't spoil it. We knew this was happening. We didn't spoil it beforehand. You know what I mean? Like, we knew this for weeks. When we've talked about Last of Us on the show, we've alluded to it, I feel like. And if you knew what we were talking about, you clearly knew what we were talking about. But if you didn't, you still were unspoiled. Now it's out in the world. I'm like, you know, it is what it is. So,
and like the Four Seasons thing, like, that's also a binge release.
Yes.
So that's also one where if we were going to discuss it today, I would not, quote, spoil that, because like, that's 8 episodes. So you need to give people time to watch that too.
Correct.
But if I were going to tweet about that, like, spoiler today, like, I'm not going to spoiler proof that, because like, it's out.
Understood.
You just gotta police yourself if you care so much about this type of stuff. And then also, like, people are not gonna come to a consensus about the correct statute of limitations. Like, some people say 24 hours, some people say 1 week, some people say 2 weeks. You know, like, no one is ever gonna agree to that because they just want whatever fits their schedule and what they think is appropriate. So, like, you just gotta make an executive decision. Like, we're gonna do this, like, at this time.
You can't make people happy all the time, Joyce.
No one's gonna be happy with it. And then, you know, and of course, you know, my favorite is when people get mad when you, quote, spoil something that is years old. Like, you know, your favorite readers or listeners who are mad at you for, quote, spoiling Uncut Gems 3 years later.
Yes, those are always great.
Yeah.
In Uncut Gems, Adam Sandler dies at the end. Joyce, let's talk about the Four Seasons. Out now on Netflix.
Your favorite
This is one of
show.
my faves. Talked to multiple people who really liked it too. But I'm not confident that it's going to make it in. That's where I am right now. I still have it in my picks.
So you haven't moved it.
I haven't moved it out. And I still
actress.
I still have it in actress and I still have it in series. This is a Netflix show co-created by Tina Fey, Tracy Wickfield, and Lang Fisher, with Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Coleman Domingo, Marco Calvani, who I interviewed. Lovely man. Will Forte. Very funny show, I found. Very easy watch.
It is. It's like a nice, breezy, cozy watch. And we've discussed this before. Like, this is how Tina kind of teed it up when she was on Amy Poehler's podcast, because she was like setting expectations that this is not like a jokes per minute type of show.
Right.
Like 30 Rock. And she was like, you know, this is just like a nice hang. And it is.
And the reviews are fine, I would say. It looks like it's got, like, as of this recording, 63 on Metacritic. So not great, but positive. Generally favorable, as Metacritic calls it.
It's about like what I expected for the show, because like it's a very solid show, but I think there is kind of, again, like expectations of what you want from a Tina Fey show. And then the fact that this is also an adaptation of a very beloved film from 1981.
Let's talk about that. Is it beloved film? It's beloved for Tina Fey. You can't actually watch it.
It's beloved for Tina Fey. No, you can't watch it anywhere. But it's I think it's. Oh, did you? On VHS?
I have it on Blu-ray. Kino Lorber did a Blu-ray release. I have it. I'm not going to pull it down, but I bought it for specifically to watch before our pod here and before the show comes out.
So you can compare.
Yes.
No, I think it's like beloved for the time it's from. So you know. Obviously it's unwatchable for most people right now. Unwatchable in like inaccessible, not because it's bad.
Though I will say this, I enjoyed the show much more than the movie. I thought the movie was, sometimes when I watch old movies, Joyce, I just find the pacing I can't hang with. I know that makes me sound like really bad or maybe like a Millie Bobby Brown type, but I'm like, man, the pacing from 1981 is a lot different from the pacing from like the 90s and 2000s, and now it just is like just awfully slow. But I think if you like Carol Burnett and Alan Alda, who are the Tina Fey and Will Forte parts in the movie, you probably would enjoy the movie. And it is very much a straight adaptation with some expansions, obviously, because the show is 30-minute episodes over 8 episodes, right? So math-wise, that's 4 hours, right, Joyce?
Well, it's 2 episodes per season, because it's the 4 seasons of the year. So
it's a 4-hour show, and it's a 2-hour movie, you know, so that's kind of expanding out. But yeah, I really liked it. I'm like, we talked about this from when I was predicting it, and I still am. Are people going to watch it? And is it too late?
I mean, the lateness thing is my biggest thing with it. I think if this were like 6-7 years ago, I would feel better about it. And I think it's a very easy watch, and like, you know, it is the beginning of May. It's May 1st, you know, it's not like it's May 31st, like Mountain Head will be.
Right.
But I don't know. I think it needs to like hit really big, and I don't know if that's gonna happen, because I think you need to generate some type of buzz to encourage people who maybe were not aware of it beforehand to seek it out, or maybe they were aware of it but they're like, I don't know if I'll watch it. Like, you need to like create like FOMO.
Yes. And so right now it's 9th in the odds And 8th in the odds is what we do in the shadows.
Is that because of you?
No,
You
I have it
in?
at 48 to 1. It's been moving up. And then 7th in the odds is Nobody Wants This. Now, I feel like one of the, for me, what we do in the shadows, I'm going to keep stuck in there, and I'm sure you are too. And then I'm like, it's Four Seasons versus Nobody Wants This. The reason I've been colder on Nobody Wants This is because, like we said, it didn't really hit with the industry in the winter that we maybe thought it might because it was such a big hit. That said, I was at an event this week, Joyce, for Tucci in Italy. I moderated it. You were there too.
I was there too. Yes, we were both
I got
there.
to talk to the Tucci on stage.
Did you talk about Nobody Wants This?
Not with Stanley Tucci. He was a busy man. He said hello to me on stage. It was incredibly cordial. It's a great show. And then at the end, he said goodbye, great job, and he left. And then I went to a party. So I didn't get to talk to him very greatly about this, but I talked to other people in the industry. One of the shows we brought up was Nobody Wants This, and everyone had seen it. And when I was like, you should watch the Four Seasons, I had to say, they were like, and what is that? And I had to explain. And so I was like, just the
hotel? Yeah.
Just the visibility of Nobody Wants This. And there is an affection still for that show, which was a really fun show and an easy watch as well. I'm like, I understand it kind of flopped in the winter, but I'm like, maybe it'll just get in because people remember it fondly and have already seen it. And they don't have to do more homework, in air quotes, like watching something.
I mean, that's why I still have it in my 8. And also, like it did not land with the guilds very well in the winter, but it still has the great visibility and the long run from having been out since September. And most people probably would have seen it, and they don't need to catch up on it now with like spring shows or new shows like the Four Seasons. So it could just kind of like default its way in, even though.
So I'm going to make a switch live, Joyce. I'm going to put it in. Well, you finish that thought. I already. You convinced me.
It doesn't have like a great guild run that we were all expecting, and also in terms of Netflix, like in terms of its comedies, like what else has performed better that Nobody Wants This? Like A Man on the Inside is mostly a Ted Danson play.
Correct.
They have The Residence, which has been its streaming numbers are good, but it still wasn't like for a Shondaland show. It wasn't really buzzy.
Yeah.
So that could still maybe be like an Uzo thing in acting. And then I mean, like on their FYC site, their top priorities are A Man on the Inside, Four Seasons, Nobody Wants This, in The Residence. So that's their top 4.
Right, of course.
And then their other shows are like, Cobra Kai, Emily in Paris, Running Point.
I think I'm gonna put Nobody Wants This in for series. And then now for actress, I should probably go with Kristen Bell, who's 4th in the odds, and I still have out. And you talked to. So I feel like you're way in on Kristen Bell then.
Well, I'm not a you. Like I had her before I talked to her, but if you had talked to her, you would have put her back in.
So I'm gonna put her back in. And then I'm gonna drop Tina Fey, sadly, who was wonderful on the show. And I'll stick Natasha Lyonne and keep her in there too. And so now I have the top 6 in the odds.
Wow. I really like Tina's performance in the show.
I don't think the show will get blanked. I actually think it can get in like other categories, like I think it can get like below line categories. Like I think the writing, especially I think it's the 5th or 6th episode when they go to the college. That's in the fall, and it's I think Tina wrote it. I think she could get in for that one where they're doing the experimental theater production of Steve Carell, Nick and Ann's daughter. That is really one of the funniest episodes I think I've seen of anything this year. I thought it was like really sharp, and of course I think Tina Fey wrote that episode, so I was like, I could see it getting it for writing, but maybe she won't get it for acting.
Just submit the pilot,
maybe they will submit, but maybe they'll submit that one because that one's really funny and probably the best episode. Also, Coleman Domingo could get in for directing maybe, who knows, because he directed a later episode. But yeah, I'll take it out and I'll go with the herd, Joyce, and go with the consensus and have Nobody Wants This in my actress.
You didn't have Will Forte.
No, right? I didn't think anybody else would pop.
No, but he's good on the show too, and
wonderful.
I feel like he no one was like predicting him because I don't think people would expect this kind of performance from him. And he's also like, you see like Tina Fey and Steve Carell in a show, you like automatically flock to those names when you're predicting. Yeah, I really like, because like Tina and Will are married on the show, and I think when the show was announced, I think people assumed that it would be like Tina and Steve like date night reunion, but I really like Will, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any Four Seasons acting. And
I would say this, of all the actors, I think Tina, the reasons I had Tina in there were A, she's really good on the show, so that helps. And then B, she's obviously like a past Emmy nominee long time ago, obviously, for 30 Rock at least. But like, and I just felt like they do like to revert to things they're comfortable with and know. And so that would help her cause for a very likable show. That said, I just think that maybe, unless you're like you're saying, unless it like really pops, I think it's going to be hard to break through the preconceived established notions that people have of this race already. The one person I thought who actually could get in, just based on name recognition and because they're such a beloved presence, I think, in Hollywood, is Coleman Domingo. Because I think he's really funny on the show. It's a different flavor, certainly, of Coleman Domingo than I think people have seen recently, like with the Oscar nominations. Though I think he is very charming and oftentimes intentionally engaging and funny as Rustin, in Bayer Rustin. I think he's like that is a very serious movie, but there is a charm and a sense of humor to that performance a lot. I think he's definitely, this is the funniest he's been in anything recently. And supporting actor, the top 6 are Evan Moss Backrack, Harrison Ford, Paul W. Downs, Tyler James Williams, Michael Urie, and Ike Barinholtz. I'm bullish on Ike Barinholtz, and I talked to him, Joyce, obviously, so I'm going to predict him. But I mean,
it was crazy you didn't have him immediately after you talked to him.
But I'm like, Coleman Domingo could sneak in that category is not. I don't think those bottom people are set in stone, or at least I don't. You know what I mean? Like maybe I'm underestimating Ike and the strength of the studio, but I do think if Coleman Domingo got in, I would not be totally surprised. It feels like it would. I would compare it, even though it's like I think the show will be more widely seen and it's a more competitive category. It feels to me like it would be like Lily Gladstone getting for Under the Bridge, where it just is like, oh, we love this person from other things and we'll put them in. And Coleman Domingo is really good on the show, and so I think he could get in supporting. I would actually say he's like maybe the best bet at an acting nomination, though.
He is very funny, and like he and Marco Cavani, and they're friends in real life.
I talked to
really
Marco.
Good together.
I would put him in if we had many more.
Why don't you have Marco?
I mean, he's so wonderful, and again, incredibly engaging and charming. And I think on a campaign trail would be wonderful. But I just think there's not enough room. But great performance.
Speaking of the studio, though, what do you make of its recent trajectory? I guess you would say.
Interesting question.
It got obviously the first, I would say, 2 weeks. Lot of buzz and hype and talk and excitement over it. But then I feel like with the subsequent episodes that have aired, like obviously they're still being watched and talked about, but if it hasn't reached like the same heights, I feel like even like I felt like when Severance was airing every single week, like that the level of conversation and buzz was consistent, and I don't feel like it's there with the studio. You could say it's also like drama versus comedy, right?
Interesting question. I actually talked to somebody about this recently.
What did they say?
We were talking about the studio, and most people, everybody says the same thing. Love that show. It was great, right? It was a fave and watched it all at once. But what this person said was like, it's great. The first 3 episodes I thought were awesome. And then in the middle, it really dragged. And then it picks up again at the end. And I think, while I don't necessarily agree, I do think the weakest episodes to me, from seeing the whole season, are episode 4, which was the Olivia Wilde episode that like spoofs Chinatown. I found that one to be not as good. I personally thought episode 5, which is when Ike and Chase Under's The War, is maybe my favorite of the episodes. I found that one hilarious, but I guess your mileage may vary if you're not as infatuated with Ike Barinholtz as I am. But I just thought that one was like really funny. And then the next week's or last week or whatever, the 6th episode is with Rebecca Hall, which again, not my fave. Right? That was where
and then this week is casting.
Now this one's really good and hilarious, and especially it's very sharp elbowed, I think, with satire of white people policing progressive ideals, I guess I would say is like the large part of it, with a smattering of AI included. Hilarious stuff. Not a standout, though, I guess, for some. So I feel like, yes, the buzz has diminished. I think next week's is the Golden Globes episode, and it is, yes, ratchet immediately back up because of the star wattage in that episode and the lot of funny stuff in that episode. And they've been ironically, it's possible they maybe, or Apple knew this, because if you remember back before the season, it's like a lot of the promo is the first 2 episodes. And then a lot of the clips that they released was from the Golden Globes episode, right?
I mean,
Where
on the
it's like,
day of the Golden Globes, they released a clip
yes.
of their Golden Globes.
And then later, I think with the Oscars, maybe they released another clip from the same episode. That was like a large part of their campaign, or pre-release campaign, was this coming episode. And it is hilarious. So I'm like excited to see the response to it. I think people will be really, I could just imagine all the memes and the videos from the various cameos.
A lot of cameos in the Golden Globes episode.
And then the next,
and it's also another good tape for Ike.
It's a fantastic tape for Ike, actually. I think it's probably the one he would consider using, though I think the war, like I said, is really funny. And then after that, it's the CinemaCon episode, and then the second part of that episode, because really it's like a 2-part finale, even though it's airing different weeks.
The finale is, well, because 9 is like when they get to CinemaCon,
yes.
And then 10 is their presentation.
Correct. And so that brings back Bryan Cranston. Is this a spoiler? Are people going to yell at me for this?
No.
Bryan Cranston comes back in those 2 episodes, and there's a cameo from podcaster and town host Matt Bellany.
Mm-hmm.
I think people enjoy those. I probably could, I guess. Yeah, I think people enjoy those. I think people will enjoy those, and it'll come back into vogue. But I guess I'm not surprised that it's diminished. I still think it's like in that top 4, obviously, to win.
I do wonder if maybe some people are not vibing with its episodic nature, because the show is very, very episodic.
Mm-hmm.
Which I like too, like TV should be episodic. But I do think we've kind of talked about this too in comparison to Hacks, maybe last week or a couple weeks ago, how like with Hacks, like there is more like character development throughout the episodes, where with the studio, I don't know if you like necessarily get that in every episode, because there's always just like a crisis or something they're dealing with, and then like a freak out, and then a crazy runner, and then it's over, and then it's the next episode and it's like a different crisis, and then they do this like basically the same thing over again, not to be reductive, but it's kind of like that. So I guess I don't know if people will have like the same emotional attachment to some of these characters, because I think that's a big part of liking TV. You have to like the people on the show, the characters, like, because you want to hang out with them. And I think Hacks does a good job of creating that type of energy. Like, you want to hang out with Ava and Deborah, right? I think even like Four Seasons does that too. Like, you want to hang out with these people. And I don't know, like, I think like the characters on the studio are very funny, and some of them are very heightened, but some of them are also kind of dicks, right?
Yes.
So I don't know if you constantly want to hang out with them, right? Like, they're fun to watch, but I guess it's not the same type of emotional investment in them.
That said, I have no doubt that, again, I think this is an industry show primarily, and so I have no doubt its Emmys chances will remain very strong. That's my thinking.
I mean, like, it's getting in. Like, that's not.
It's definitely getting in, but I mean, I think it's like win competitive.
I think some people would say it's like top 2.
Yeah. Because I think it could get in, like we're saying, like all the
like, it can win directing.
It could win directing. I think it'll get in for writing. It's going to get a bunch of like below the line nominations, like editing and cinematography. I think music. I think it could get a few guest acting nominations, right? And then I think Seth and probably Ike, and maybe even Catherine O'Hara and Catherine Hahn, I think are very much in play for nominations. I have Catherine O'Hara. I don't have Catherine Hahn, but I do think like Catherine Hahn is proven sticky in the discourse because people love her.
Yeah, Catherine O'Hara is also back at the last couple episodes.
So I'm like, I think it's win competitive. That said, like we talked about this when we were talking about Hacks, and we'll talk more about Hacks next week, Joyce, radio tease, because some big stuff is happening on Hacks ahead. Nothing in the 4th season of Hacks makes me think that Hacks would not repeat as a winner.
Yeah, I mean, we can't talk about either of their endings yet, like both shows. I would say I prefer Hacks' ending.
Yeah. It was a fantastic show, a
But
fantastic season.
your mileage may vary. So
And like I keep saying, I'm still holding out to see what happens with The Bear season 4. I think if the season 4 is like, because The Bear's getting in, it's not a worry. They're not worried about getting in for nominations, and they shouldn't be, because even with the polarized third season, it'll still get in. But if season 4 is great, I have no reason to believe that the Emmy voters won't come back to this. I'm going to keep saying it until we see it, Joyce. I'm just going to keep saying it.
But I don't think the issue is like the quality, because I don't think like the quality of season 3 was awful. Like it wasn't like hot trash. It was just the low 2.
Yes.
And 1 even. But I think it's more like, like this is not a comedy.
It's not, but we don't know. What if 4 is? I'm just telling you. I just want to see what happens.
Is season 4 going to be a
what if it is?
now?
What if it's funnier?
That's even worse. Then that's even worse. If you're
what if like
after it lost, everyone was like, oh, maybe they'll move to drama now. It's like no, that just makes them look like doofuses.
Also, I guess the other thing is like, what if the hacks in the studio kind of scratch the same itch? I don't think they do, because I think they present Hollywood in different ways. But there is a broader thing where you're like, oh, you could make the case that they're both in the same corner, and The Bear is different. I'm just saying. I'm still having hacks in first all the way, and I have studio in second. But I think The Bear, depending on what happens in season 4, I'll just keep it in the back burner that it could win. Before we go, Joyce, a couple of interesting category announcements this week. Limited series impacted a little,
which, as we know already, weak.
So pretty weak. So one of the things, the first one was The Perfect Couple. Joyce, is a series, a drama series, not a limited series. I mentioned this at the top. That surprised me.
It's going drama. So
it's going drama. Now I had it in for 2 acting nominations: Dakota Fanning and Liev Schreiber. Now I have it in for nothing.
Critics' Choice winner Liev Schreiber.
Now I don't have it in at all. No disrespect to those great performers, but I don't understand. Like, strategy-wise, I guess I didn't really understand going to drama, because the only categories I think the show is really competitive in are these supporting categories, which are incredibly overstuffed in the drama category and much more open in the limited series category.
And also, like, what would a second season even be? I don't know. Is this like another, like, 9 Perfect Strangers? Like, just is like Nicole's doing this for Netflix now and not
I'm
Hulu?
assuming yes. And I know there's other books, I think, in this, the author is obviously famed.
Yes. I don't know. I guess it's like, I mean, I didn't have it getting in for anything in limited.
No, you didn't have to make any changes. You were the first person I thought of when I saw the headline, because I was like, well, Joyce doesn't have to worry about shit. She was already out on this. so she's good.
It is like, they're moving to the more difficult field.
Yes.
So obviously I don't have that in anywhere in drama either. But I do wonder if they, sure, like, let's say season 2 is coming, like, do they want to move it out of the way of their other upcoming, like, female fronted, like, beachy limited series, your upcoming save Sirens?
And that was what I thought too. And so that's what I'm going to, like, probably put in, because clearly that is where Netflix is thinking, right? Like, they didn't have, that's the fall beach read, the Labor Day weekend beach read was The Perfect Couple. And now Memorial Day weekend is going to be Sirens.
I have watched 1 episode of Sirens.
Same.
And just full LOLs.
It's a lot of fun. Love the people in it. Millie Alcock. I didn't know your game, I guess I would say. I think she's, like, really good. I just didn't expect that at all. And Megan Fey obviously remains undefeated. Julianne Moore completely unhinged.
So unhinged.
I think it.
Oh my god, of that episode.
It's pretty great. So, I will obviously watch the rest. I do think that it could get in now in these categories, which are more opened, I would say, now, without.
Well, there were other moves too.
So, Presumed Innocent. Ruth Negga is a lead actress in limited series, Joyce, from supporting.
Yeah. So Presumed Innocent Harity moved from drama to limited
Yes.
earlier. It went drama in the winter.
Yes.
Not very successful. And it's going limited because it's going to be anthology. Season 2 is an anthology.
Right.
It's a new case, whatever.
Correct.
But yeah, like we all assumed Royce would be supporting, and she got a supporting nomination at the Independent Spirit Awards because they do TV now. But no, she's going lead. So I think that's just indicative of how soft the field is.
So the top 5 in the lead odds are Kristen Milioti, Michelle Williams, Cate Blanchett, Renee Zellweger for Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy, and Caitlin Dever for Apple Cider Vinegar, then Ellen Pompeo, Lola Pettigrew, Julianne Moore for Sirens, Uzo Aduba for The Supreme's All You Can Eat. New entry in this category as well, Joyce, Ari Grainer for Monsters.
Yeah, so we've had 2 moves from presumed, no pun intended, supporting actress contenders into lead.
I'm not going to put Rusnik in.
Wow.
And I still have Lola Pettigrew, and I'm thinking of dropping her too.
For who?
Well, I want to put in Megan Fahey for Sirens. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to stick Lola Pettigrew for now. But I really do think Renee Zellweger could get in for Bridget Jones because she's not campaigning, and the category is so light, and there is such an affection for those movies. I think she could actually buck the trend of movie actors not getting in here and get in. She would be the first one since Laura Dern, right? That's what we said here in this category.
It's a movie. It just wasn't a theatrical movie.
I know.
Here.
So like she would be the first movie actress to get nominated since Laura Dern, right? For the
Tale.
The Tale. But why not? But I'm not going to put her in yet. I'll keep Lola Pettigrew, and I put Megan Fahey in. And then in supporting, because I can't have Dakota Fanning, I guess I'll have Millie Alcock.
Supporting is like, I don't know what to do here. Just because there's also more spots than in lead, too.
Yes.
So, I mean, I did have Ruth Negga in supporting.
Yes. So now
I
you
need
have to change
her.
Yes.
So I don't know. What if like there's like a default Angela Bassett 0 day nomination? She's what? Here, she's still in like the top 7 or something here, right? Oh, speaking of Angela, not to double back on our first combo about spoilers, but the week before Joel died on The Last of Us, Bobby Nash died on 911.
Yes.
Starring Angela Bassett,
correct.
Her on-screen husband, played by Peter Krause, died.
Yes.
That was a surprise to all the stands. And I mean, I don't watch that show, but it was everywhere.
Yes.
That night, the next day, and very little outrage about being, quote, spoiled. Well, so they're different type of shows.
I can tell you why. People don't respect broadcast shows.
Exactly. Different type of shows. But like no one cared about being, quote, spoiled about Peter Krause dying on 9/11.
I'm gonna go. I just feel like the Netflix move there for. I'm just like that. You're right. It is for Sirens, and that means there's confidence.
This is all speculative,
but it's informed speculation. But there has to be a reason why they would have done that, and I think there.
Besides a season 2 of.
Yeah, I think whether or not that Sirens is going to get in, I think the Netflix calculation there is has a better shot of making it here than The Perfect Couple did, and by having both in here, they kind of could cannibalize each other.
I still don't know who I'm gonna replace Ruth with here.
Millie out? What if Julianne Moore ends up running supporting? I don't think she would, but
I mean, she could. Like
she could.
She's like the shady boss.
Yes,
lady. So because I do think like Megan is the lead, having not seen the rest of the show. But
it's definitely through Megan's perspective,
yes.
So I feel like she'd be lead.
Great texting on the show. Good text.
She's just great. I love Megan Fey is the best. Megan Fey, if you're listening, we love you. I'm just a big fan.
I don't know. I don't want to put Leslie Manville for disclaimer. She's on like the top 5 here.
I have her in there still, but maybe I'll drop her to make you happy and put in Layla George. Well, I know you like Layla George more.
I mean, I don't like her more. I just have her in.
I guess we can wrap up there, Joyce. Email us at slugfest@goldderby.com.
While I'm still struggling to replace Rebecca.
Let's leave him hanging. I don't know who you're gonna pick.
I don't know.
And you don't know either. So
this is yeah, I don't know. Maybe they should just like cut down the spots.
What if they do? Maybe they will, right? When the ballots come out, maybe they'll not be. They can't.
There'll be a lot. They'll reach the threshold for some.
I know. We'll be back next week, Joyce, talking all about hacks.
One of their big episodes next week.
So look forward to that, and we'll talk to you then. Thanks for listening to Awards Magnet, a Gold Derby podcast. Like what you heard? Leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Awards Magnet is produced by Andrew Merrill. Our logo is designed by Chelsea Sikora. Please like and subscribe to stay on top of all the awards news and email us at slugfests@goldderby.com.